Yes, people, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I offer whatever suits your time zone. And more importantly, I know for those of us that celebrate Christmas, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and more importantly, a prosperous New Year. And yeah, thank you again for coming around wherever you're watching from, whether Facebook or Twitter, you're all welcome to Chelsea Perspective. So, I'm going to start by before we start talking about the players that we think Chelsea should sign. It's important to look at the situation at the club, the injuries, the COVID situation, and first we'll start by I'll share my screen so that we can talk about players that are out with injury or COVID-19. So we'll be objective in our discussion. Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. And if you can see my screen here, we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players out. Out of those players, 9 of which are 7 of which are recognized first-team players, which includes Timo Werner, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Romelu Lukaku, Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and also Ben Chilwell. So it's actually a very, very crazy situation at Chelsea. But we had some good news yesterday or 2 days ago after we learned that Jorginho's COVID-19 test was a false positive. So that's good news for us. And also that Callum Hudson-Odoi and what's his name? And Romelu Lukaku all joined the group. But I'm seeing Romelu Lukaku, he's in the list here. So I'm not sure what the situation is. Maybe until Thomas Tuchel's press conference, we'll get to understand what the situation is really. Yes, Coded Prince, get us Rice, please. Yes, I know a lot of people are calling for the club to get Rice, but before you get any player, it's important to look at what you need. Rice is a very fine player, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a leader. He's Chelsea through and through. He's an academy bred. Even though he left the club at 10, he's still Chelsea through and through. So the truth is, would Rice himself want to come to Chelsea given that we still have N'Golo Kante around? Think about it. And Kante, whenever he's fit, most definitely starts over Rice. And the argument that we could start Rice and N'Golo Kante at the same time, that both men can be on the same pitch at the same time, it doesn't really make sense to me because you could argue that both players, like for like to a certain measure, will lack a register, which is pivotal to the way we play, register in the form of the person like Jorginho, who helps us keep the ball, helps us progress the ball, no matter how tight of a situation we are in. You see Jorginho always available asking for the ball. So at the moment, I do not think Rice is what we want. And that begs the question, do we need an N'Golo Kante deputy or do we need an N'Golo Kante replacement? So I will answer that when we have a complete panel here to have a good debate on that. And by the way, Coded Prince, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. It helps the channel grow and it encourages us to also come out and do the shows for you. And also smash that like button so that Google will push the stream to more people. So now looking at the injury list here, and before I go ahead, I'd like to talk about the app I'm using. It helps make the stream very seamless. It's called FOTMob. It's a very, very intuitive sports app. You can get it if you use Android, or if you use Apple products, you can download it. It's very seamless. You can see the lineup, see injury list, see formation, see, upcoming games to a future date. Actually, it's a very, very powerful app, so that's why I like to use it. So let's continue. Now, if you look at the injury list here, we have Timo Werner. He's out with COVID-19. He's doubtful. So yeah, really doubtful indeed. Um, Big up to you, Jam. Nice to see you in the chat, my brother. It's a pleasure to have you around. And I'm going to put the link in the chat in a bit so anybody that wants to join can join us. So if we look at the injury list here, we have Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's also out with muscle injury and is doubtful. We also have Romelu Lukaku out, Lois Baker, who's not fully integrated into the first team, but was at least I mean, he could have made up the list when we had so many people out. I mean, he's capable of playing in the defense and also in the midfield, but we could not have him join the squad because he contracted COVID-19. And we also have Kai Havertz. We also have Hakim Ziyech. Kai Havertz is COVID-19. Hakim Ziyech is calf injury. Callum Hudson-Odoi is COVID-19, but I heard he's back. I'm not sure why he's in this list. We also have Ben Chilwell, who we all know before time that he will be out until at least February ending or mid-February. So, but big up to Jam and everybody, and Merry Christmas to you all. It's a pleasure to have you all in the chat. And Helgi, welcome to the stream, my brother.
Yeah, great to be here. Hopefully, this new brand show will help us grow even more and help us interact with people in a different way, because the pre-match streams have been very successful. So we have to build onto that, and this is a great idea. So we can discuss or a lot of topics regarding our club, and it's a double pleasure to join here in a very special day. So first of all, I want to wish Merry Christmas everyone, to every Chelsea supporter. May they be happy, have a prosperous life and time with their relatives, with their families, and yeah, let them have an excellent day today and for the new year also.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the wishes, for the Christmas wish, Helgi. Helgi, I don't know, do you have the list of the injured players? Because my plan is for us to look at it and see, okay, what do we need? Where did we suffer when these players were out? Did we have a capable replacement for them, or did we not? So that will help us, structure the debate properly, make it objective so that it's comprehensible for anybody that's watching. So do you want me to share the screen, or do you have your list?
Yeah, I have the list in my mind, but if you share the list, it would be better so we can discuss based on what we see directly. And it's the same.
Okay, if you look at the list here, we have Timo Werner, we have Ruben Loftus-Cheek, we have Romelu Lukaku, Lois Baker, Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Ben Chilwell. So in their absence, I think we struggled in some department on the pitch. We struggled not much in the defensive area. We struggled mainly in the midfield. We struggled in the attack. So that clearly... let me ask you this question, because most people will argue we don't need a second defined striker.
Well, like it's not. First of all, I think the list isn't really updated because Romelu and Hudson-Odoi are back in training because they tested negative for COVID. So we may practically exclude them if they continue to.
Here's the thing. I'm talking in their absence. When Lukaku was...
I would get there. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that we need a second striker. So we have Kai in this role practically when Lukaku isn't playing, or even Timo when he's adapted in this role, especially against teams who play in a high line. But for sure, I would like us to have another one who we could rely on, as we have had at least 3 strikers in every of our title-winning seasons, especially of late. So in 2014-15, we had Diego Costa, Loic Remy, who was influential when Diego was absent, and then Didier as a third striker. Or even in 16-17, it was Diego playing up front, and then we could adapt ourselves with other false nine, with Hazard, with Pedro. But we can see that in this kind of the personnel that we have, we are struggling for players who can provide us like excellent finishing when Lukaku is absent. So this has led me to thinking that we really need someone. I'm against the idea that we should have kept Armando Broja, because we are talking in retrospective now that it would have been better if he would have stayed here. But I don't think that it's a necessary thing to do, as he is growing at Southampton, and it's bad for his career in the long term. He will come back as a stronger player. Same with Conor Gallagher as a midfielder. So I think we need a short-term guy who could provide that. That Linkai has done very well in the games he has played, but I think
but here's the thing, Helgi. Here's the thing. I don't mean to cut you off. Kai is not in any way a defined number 9. When you and I know that, or let me say, if you want to call it an out and out number 9, that's not what Kai is. So why did we risk not buying a second? That is a second striker or another number 9. Even Vlahovic at the time we bought Lukaku was cheap. And I don't know the argument when we signed the Lukaku. I'm not against us, like the fact that we signed Lukaku. He's here with us. We have to support him. He's a good striker. The problem is just that we haven't found a solution, to get him firing on all cylinders. We had Vlahovic was available then. Some people say they wouldn't sell him to us, but if you offer the money, show them the money, and they will let the player go. Even without my argument then, even in the video I made with Mikhail, my argument was that we could still sign Lukaku and sign Vlahovic. And Vlahovic, after all, wasn't far behind Lukaku in the Serie A. He was just 3 goals behind. And remember, he played in a team that created less chances, and he scored that much goal. You get my argument now. So why didn't we even go for him? And I think it's a bit too late now because his price is really high at this point. So I'm not sure why we did not even, try make inquiries, let alone not buy him, because we should have 2 strikers at this club, and that's why we're Chelsea. Because in the absence of Lukaku, we really did struggle. Yes, I prefer fluidity, but there are some games if you have him on, he causes problems for the opposition defenders and creates spaces for other people to score. So I'm not sure why we did not sign a second striker, or at least keep Armando Broja out of the club. So, but that's, by the way. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Realistically speaking, I think that you sign either one, so you sign one and leave the other. So you can't sign Lukaku and Vlahovic to be Lukaku as the first striker and Vlahovic as the second one, because
you think they can play together? Is that what you think?
No, I think that realistically speaking, the prices of them don't allow us to sign both in the same window. At least we aren't that kind of club who dismisses the financial fair play rules. So we went for Lukaku after Dortmund were reluctant to make a discount on Haaland. So we moved to him, but we all knew that it was only him then. So we couldn't sign someone with a similar amount of money. And Fiorentina at the time were asking for around 80 million of euros. Maybe his price have raised even more due to his performances in Serie A this season. But it would be impossible to sign 2 strikers for a calculated sum of around 200 millions of euros, because by this logic we would have signed Haaland with a similar amount of money and wouldn't have gone for either of them. So if we sign a second striker, for sure that it would be a cheaper option than Vlahovic, in my opinion. So you sign either of them. I don't know if your point was to sign only Vlahovic and leave Lukaku at Inter, or to sign both of them, because for me both of them it's not possible in a transfer window, considering our like careful stance to the financial fair play rules. Remember, we signed Lukaku with the money we generated for selling the academy products. It was a calculated sum of around 98 millions of pounds, and Lukaku costed exactly 97.5. So our net spend was plus 500,000 euros. So this represents the sense of the club that if you spend big, you have to sell big. While if we sign Vlahovic, it means that we would sell like players who cost 80, who would generate an amount of 80 millions more. So it wouldn't be realistic, I think, to sign both of them because Fiorentina were asking a lot. I remember in summer that there were rumors that Man City was after him, even though the rumors were short-lived actually after Tottenham didn't allow Kane to leave. Atletico Madrid was rumored to go for them, but the Fiorentina president owner he clearly stated that they
I
were.
recall, I think they gave him a new contract during that period because they were aware that many clubs were looking at him. But that's why I'll come back to you, Helgi. Now, Ankit, welcome to the stream, and sorry for cutting short your lunch break with your friends or family.
No, absolutely fine.
I sincerely do apologize. Now, Ankit, coming back to you, we started by looking at the list of players on the sideline and where we suffered, places where we lacked proper replacement for the players that were out. And we agreed, yes, we didn't have a second striker capable, a defined number 9. We had lots of players who could play as false 9, but we didn't have a second defined striker. So that led me to asking Helgi, why didn't we even make inquiries for Vlahovic? Let alone Fiorentina didn't want to sell or keep Breuer like Matt here said here, because why did we think Lukaku was going to come around and just perform magic? So why didn't we? Why didn't we get the second striker? They're up to you, Ankit.
It's $1 million question. But again, firstly, a big up to Helgi and of course you, Coachila bro, and wish you all a very, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance.
Merry Christmas to you too, brother. Yeah.
Thank you. So yes, this is definitely an interesting thing because at the end of the day, Chelsea wanted one big number 9. That was no secret. We really wanted Romelu Lukaku, and then what was around it, right? Because of the fact that I think Havertz towards the end of last season proved that he can possibly play a second striker role, like if need be, and he did it very well for us in the Champions League, and we all know that was well documented. And of course, Timo Werner, it was his first season technically, and that was so. I can understand to some extent why Chelsea went the way that they did, and I'm sure, like at the time also we streamed together, we believed that okay, hey, Lukaku will be the real deal. But I know that on Chelsea perspective itself, you discussed with Vlahovic, and it was actually worth definitely considering seriously, because that is the point in Chelsea, right? And what happens? I don't want to kind of undermine my own club, but compare that to maybe a Leicester, not a top 4 club, put it that way, right? And then those clubs which are really good in terms of squad, but still constantly having players in the scouting system, having them, and the timing is very important. Yes, Helgi did mention about Vlahovic and Lukaku not being kind of affordable. But maybe in the summer he just was. And imagine now, Vlahovic is definitely not affordable right now because his value is even, probably doubled or tripled now. So maybe in the summer, honestly, we had obviously we tried to, as in offload a few midfielders. If we would have offloaded, say, Barkley, and then maybe got some more kind of funds, yeah, it would have been much more doable. Coming to Broja, for me, Armando Broja, yes, in hindsight, we can say that he should have stayed. But trust me, he wouldn't have become the player what he is even right now, if he was at Chelsea. Because I think, yes, he's not had umpteen number of appearances at Southampton. But the fact that he's got Premiership first team experience of playing even those handful games is something that Chelsea wouldn't have given him, in my opinion. Unless, say he kind of waited till December and only now we have, all these strikers missing at the same time. So, for me, what Chelsea did at that point is probably right. But right now, what Chelsea should do, coming to your question, is because that we know that, hey, this situation can arise, and Werner, in the few appearances he's had this season, honestly, yes, I would love that. I know he's kind of proving me wrong and becomes that world-class striker that we all wanted him to be. He's not a striker. That's what I label him as. He's definitely a wide forward at best. I would not consider him as a striker. Kai Havertz, I would still consider him as a striker. So Chelsea should definitely right now, or probably already has, gone scouting and looked for someone who is willing to play as a number two, as in someone who can come in. But even talking about our old days, I'm sure Helgi will also add to that. But we had Anelka, Drogba at the same time. We had Shevchenko and Drogba at the same time. I know Shevchenko, it is a different kind of debate because he didn't kind of get so many chances, and that probably spelled his doom, right, at the end of the day. But there are strikers available. We are Chelsea Football Club, as in there will be definitely people out there. Jonathan David, for example. Yes, I know he's kind of uprooting trees at Lille, but maybe if we approach, like, have we even approached? Let us at least try and approach and see that if those kind of players are available and ready to play second fiddle, or maybe be happy with playing 30 games a season. I think we can definitely afford that because again, Jonathan David is just an example that I put in because that is the kind of as in name, and that is the kind of ability that they have, that even if they come for like those few games, they will be really effective. So for me, that's good. Again, that might not be the right example considering his value might have risen, but it's about us getting to those names.
Yeah, I get your argument, and here's another aspect of the thing that's so annoying is that before we went for Lukaku, we were well aware that Tuchel doesn't like playing Timo Werner as a defined number 9 or as an out and out striker. Even under Frank Lampard, it was the same thing. Lampard preferred playing him on the flanks. Although on occasions he's played in the middle, and Tuchel also prefers playing Timo Werner on the flanks. So why did we, even when we were going for Lukaku alone, didn't it come to the mind of those who did the business that this guy at the point could get injured? I get the argument from Helgi, yes, that Broja is still young, his development and all that. I mean, we have a lot of games to play. The kid will get a chance to play and develop, and had he been around, he would have played enough that if he does well, even Lukaku will find it difficult getting him back into the team, because that's how it works. If you get a chance to play and you do really well, and you keep your place. So I'm not sure what happened because it's a risk. Now, but that's by the way. The question now is, how do we solve that striker department issue of having just one defined striker? Because left for me, I'd say Tuchel could do without a defined striker because that's who he is. He does that quite well. But since we want one, we'd have to have a replacement in place. How do we solve that problem? Who is a capable replacement that the club is looking at right now, if they are looking at anybody at all? Because I'm not sure that's their priority right now. But if I ask you guys, who would you suggest for a capable second striker at Chelsea?
Can I go ahead because it is specific?
Yeah, go ahead. Anki can always come in whenever he wants.
The thing is that so this question is coming from the Vlahovic discussion that we did, and now that I win the clock back, and in after we signed Lukaku, there were some rumors that we were interested in signing a Stuttgart striker like Sasha Kalajic, if he was called. So this whether these
by the way, how good is Sasha? Since you're talking about him,
I have never watched him, but the thing is that my point is that whether these rumors were true or not, they represented the stance of the club that they wouldn't go for an alternative that would cost similarly to Lukaku because of obvious reasons that I mentioned above. So and I think this stance will drag at least in this January window, if we want to go into the market for a second choice striker. Maybe next summer the things will change depending on of our striking situation, attacking option, how they will be, whether the other attacking players who will stay or who may leave. So this may change next summer. As Ankit said, that football is very dynamic, and in transfer market things change very quickly. But in the same window, I wouldn't expect too costly options to be signed at once. So I took the Stuttgart striker example to give my argument that the club will go for someone cheaper than Lukaku, but who may help us like clinch wins in the games that Lukaku is absent. And beyond that, I think that it's a bit early considering the circumstances to lose hope on Lukaku because he has had like a lot of difficulties to face. First with a long-term injury, considering the nature of it. He got injured against Malmo and missed approximately 2 months. Now he got COVID, so we haven't really seen him at 100% of shape. He has been underwhelming in the last games he has played, of course, but it's not the moment to say that we should lose hope on him and immediately go for an expensive option. So for a second choice strike, we have to think now. At the moment, I don't have a clear name because it's a thing that the club and Tuchel sees Kai as a number 9, and he has reiterated his stance that Kai is a 9, despite the fact that he came from Leverkusen as an advanced midfielder. But in my opinion, as we are saying, we should go for a second choice striker, even though, as I said, it will be someone of a less flamboyant profile, if we can use this term in a positive sense, than Lukaku, but someone who could drag us from difficult situation and make us clinch wins in difficult time. Maybe we should see some kind of, I don't know, some bottom 10 club in the Premier League who could be someone who can thrive. But as I said, I don't expect someone of Lukaku's profile to come in January at least.
Now, I understand your argument, Helgi. Here's the thing about the argument that Kai is a number 9, as you said, maybe the club and Tuchel sees him as a number 9. Now, there's something that you need in a number 9, something you can find in Lukaku, something you can find in Diego Costa, something you can find in Didier Drogba, that power, the strength, that aggression to cause defenders issues, opposition defenders issues, that you cannot find in Kai. Kai he operates with spaces. He knows how to, make the most, even the slightest sight he gets on a space before you know what is happening, he's done some damage. But Kai is not that guy that will scare a defender in terms of how he battles. Let me just phrase it that way. That's my point. So yeah, but Anke, coming to you, do you have anybody in mind to suggest you think the club would, should go for, so that we have a second striker in place? Because I don't know what they were thinking, letting Abraham go, letting Breuer go, and then buying just Romelu Lukaku as the only defined striker at the club.
Go as well.
Exactly, let Giroud go. So if you really want to play with a defined striker, even if you want to play with a defined striker in some time, it should come to the back of your mind that they're humans, they get injured. And what are you going to do in their absence? So I get over to you.
Yes, Adhan, before I can get to that, I do have to make this point very clear, right? Adhan, again, I understand that Chelsea let these strikers go, but we really don't know what exactly happened, between Giroud's, party and, Abraham's kind of, party versus Chelsea's management. Like that conversation, we really don't know. Things are not really revealed 100%. We all know that. And my gut says that Giroud wanted to play. He still believes that he can actually, play many more matches. Same thing with Abraham. Same thing with Broha. As in, again, it's like a Billy Gilmore case that we have previously discussed, Coachila. I remember that, where we really believe that yes, Chelsea probably need those strikers, need those midfielders, but at the end of the day, those are individuals as well. They do have to play a lot of football, and they have certain ambitions, and of course their ability to kind of grow up the ladder. And Havertz is a classical case. Like for me, I go back to saying that Werner for me is not a striker, but Havertz is. And yes, he does not have maybe what a Lukaku has, maybe what obviously an Anelka, Drogba, those kind of strikers always had. But remember, he's 21, and that is what Tuchel comes in, and Klopp has done that in Liverpool. Like I'm taking that example, but the fact that you grow in people, and Havertz has shown that promise. So for me, he's certainly reliant. Our bad luck or terrible luck is that in the same month, or rather at the same time, we are having Timo Werner out, Kai Havertz out, and Lukaku out. Now, that's an exceptional situation. So you don't actually plan transfers because of just such exceptional situations, because that is the ideal world which really doesn't exist, honestly speaking, right? But yes, coming back to the question about which striker is in my mind, yes, already kind of spoke about. I think Jonathan David, yes, his value must have risen already. Vlahovic was
How
a
old
great.
is he again?
Uh, I think he's a young Canadian striker. Let me just quickly check. But I think another name which we haven't linked, is basically Adeyemi. Adeyemi, I know he's not like a proper tall striker that you're kind of referring to, but he's 21. Jonathan David, by the way, right? As in, again, I know he's as old as Havertz, but Jonathan David has done it quite more consistently at the highest level, if I may say so, in the Champions League. We've already seen him. And Adeyemi also has done with Salzburg. Like, he is that person, and he's ideal for me because Adeyemi can play up front as well as wide. I know it again kind of puts a lot of confusion like a Werner, but for me he's more a striker and then a wide man compared to Werner, who for me is more a wide striker and then can also play number 9. You know what I mean? So for me, Adeyemi, I know again a lot of clubs are after him, but again, if we are investing in someone really young, as it is better to kind of invest big than go for someone kind of as in the mid 20s, who's anyway going to be leaving after 1 or 2 years, right? As in again, we may not have them for a long time, or you go for a third option, which is you get, like, I think you guys also spoke about, like, some club who is in that relegation battle. I think in the mold of Dembaba when he came to Chelsea, right? As in, we remember Dembaba, he moved from West Ham to Newcastle, then Newcastle to Chelsea, and that was an ideal case. And I know another striker that I'm going to take the name of, may not really please a lot of Chelsea supporters, but I think Callum Wilson. I know he's injury prone, but we were linked as well. Again, that is just an example I'm taking, but in that mold, someone who is playing in that relegation threatened teams, who that by the end of the season will anyway be going out, or probably more, as in it's expected that they will be going out, but is motivated enough in that right age to basically prove in the Premier League, right? As in, maybe someone maybe from Watford, Newcastle, who is in that mode and really scoring goals. At this point in time, yes, honestly, in the Premier League, I don't see that name coming out at the back of my mind. But abroad, if I'm seeing, I think Adeyemi, yeah, I'll go for a younger striker in Adeyemi, or maybe. But I think Sebastian Haller, I know that he's uprooted trees in Ajax, and he's done a lot of things, basically in the Dutch league, in the Champions League. But maybe
Mhm.
if he has the motivation to come back to the Premier League, and maybe as an give an example of Drogba and Anelka, I maybe convince him, and maybe if he's really good, play two up top. Why not? As in, again, it's not like our wide forwards are doing excellently either. We want Pulisic, Ziyech's of the world, Callum Hudson-Odoi to basically do it week in, week out. But none of them, like, I'll repeat that, none of them have really convinced me that they are
Yep.
going right to the very top, right? So why don't
Yep.
we change something? And it's not like we are on top of the league. It's probably the right time for Tuchel to experiment, because if he doesn't experiment now, again, I don't want it. But if these kind of results in the last few weeks continue, he may not be there by the end of the season. We know how what Chelsea is, right? And that's the reality, whether we like it or not, right? So I think probably January is the time when we should probably invest. And again, it might be the hard truth, but Werner is not going to cut it for me as much as I would love to be proven wrong.
Yeah, great argument right there. I think we've given him enough time. This towards the period we thought maybe his picking form, he slumped again. I'm not sure what happened. And Merry Christmas to you, Bobby Fairview, a very, very great supporter of this channel. It's always good to see you around. Now let's move to the midfield, and I'm going to start with the most controversial player in the midfield there. I know you already know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about nobody but Jorginho, of which you could a majority of the Chelsea fan base want him sold. Some argue he does nothing for the team. And even as it was clear in his absence that we struggled without him, we struggled to keep the ball. We even struggled to connect our defense to our attack, to midfield and to our attack. They still want Jorginho gone. And the truth is, I'm going to repeat what I said in one of my videos, why we struggled against Zenit away. One of the reasons was his absence. We were not able to coordinate properly in our midfield or connect the midfield and the defense and the attack. Jorginho is a register. And where some people might not know what a register is, some people may refer to it by another term. Jorginho is very pivotal to the way we play. Whether you like it or not, as long as the team, the current Chelsea team, the setup and everything, without Jorginho, it doesn't seem like we're able to play our game in his absence. It has happened in the few games he's missed. It was clear that we missed him. So now that begs the question, because when Billy Gilmour was still around under Frank Lampard and under, Thomas Tuchel also, in the absence of Jorginho, whenever Billy Gilmour comes in, he does a good job. It seems as even actually he progresses the ball better than Jorginho does. I can argue that to tomorrow, and if you look at the stats in games he plays, you will find out that really he progresses the ball better than Jorginho does. And as small as he is, he's not. You can easily nudge him off the ball. He's aggressive too. He can outjump even the tallest guy on the pitch. So why did we let him go? But that's, by the way, now we need another player in the mode of Jorginho, so that when he's not playing, that player deputizes for him and able to do a good job. And whether we like it or not, I think we do need another player in the mode of Jorginho, because the current team cannot do without him, except if we have to change the team in its entirety and then restructure everything that we can do without Jorginho. So either of you can come in there. What do we do for Jorginho's case?
The strangest thing in this discussion is that if you ask me made the same discussion this time last year, I would say that he would come back to Italy very soon, because he wasn't finding them himself in Lampard's system, and he was one of those players who really went under the radar, or misplaced a lot of passes whenever he played, became a second choice, playing in field with Lampard, preferring to play Kante and Kovacic in that pivot before in front of the back four. While now everything has changed, and as you said, he's pivotal not only in our cohesion in terms of creating, building up the play from deep and orchestrating our attacks, but also he is a guard who coordinates with defense and provides security despite the individual mistakes he has done in the 3 or 4 last games, so against Man United or West Ham. But in general, he's a pivotal player. Now coming back to the reference with Billy as a replacement for him, if for Broja said that I was very, very happy with the decision to let him go alone because he will develop as he is at Southampton. I agree with you in the sense that we shouldn't have let Gilmour, at least without a replacement ready for him, because unlike Broja, Gilmour has tasted Premier League football more enough to provide reference that he should stay with the team. That if you are old enough, is the saying, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So he proved that in the last week before the leagues were stopped against the Merseyside teams. He was man of the match against Liverpool in the FA Cup. He was man of the match against Everton in the league in the same week. He was man of the match against Krasnodar in the last group stage game with Frank. So he was a pivotal player, and he keeps collecting those man of the match awards whenever he debuts, even with the national team, is good enough. So I didn't really get why we sent him, and especially why did we send him to Norwich, who clearly wasn't I'm referring to Daniel Farke, because unfortunately things have changed for him with this.
And here's I don't mean to cut you off, Helgi. If you can give me 1 minute, Helgi. And here's the bad side to that, the Norwich story, is that most people are actually blaming Gilmour, not recognizing that he's not in a team that's good enough to make the most of his talent.
And
most people are actually saying he's been most people are actually blaming Gilmour, saying he's been underperforming, not even thinking about the team that he plays in. So go ahead.
No, yeah, unbiasedly speaking, because it may seem that we are Chelsea fans and we are speaking basing on defending the interests of our player, but realistically speaking, it was an unexcusable decision to leave him sidelined for a long time, basing on their form where they were clearly getting like relegated with this that kind of like lack of sharpness and form. We bet them 7-0, and still Daniel Farke was stubbornly refusing to give him a chance, and immediately he comes in and gives an assist, even though he is deployed as a number 8. So the thing is that besides the fact that he could have been a very adaptable replacement for Jorginho in that number 6 role, and I really see him as a number 6. I've watched him when he came from Rangers and Jody Morris deployed him in the number 6 role, and he was excellent. But even if you play him in a more advanced position, he can thrive from that position as well. So I mean, like, he doesn't only do his orchestrating role with lots of personality and courage, which isn't easy to say for a player who is born in 2001. But also he can show flexibility that can help us rotate in midfield, especially in this position, like in this state where we lack 3 of our key players in this regard. Like Jorginho was absent, Kovacic was absent, and Golo was absent. So Billy could fill not only the number 6 role, but also he could play as a number 8. And
here's the point you made now. Here's the point you made now. Jorginho was absent, Ngolo was absent, and Kovacic was absent, and we had no like for like, even the closest thing to any of them.
Saul only, but he wasn't like
exactly. And these three players, they all have their deficiencies, but their strengths complement each other. That's what makes our midfield perfect whenever the three of them are fit. Jorginho's ability to dictate the tempo of the game, connect the defense to midfield and attack is perfect for us. Kovacic doesn't do that as well as Jorginho. But Kovacic's ability to beat the press, he's press resistant. Jorginho doesn't have it. N'Golo Kante doesn't have it as much as he does. Then Kante's ability to protect us, none of either Jorginho or Kovacic has that. And in the absence of those three guys, we had nobody else to even fulfill their role, even to 50% level. That was why we struggled, because N'Golo Kante wasn't playing. We were shipping in goals like crazy. And that exposed our defense. And some people start arguing, we don't know. We had a good defense all this while, but the truth is your defense starts from the midfield, the ability of your midfield to protect your defense, because without a strong midfield that protects the defense, opponents will come at your defense, and 10 times and 9 times out, 2 times out of 10 times, they will get through. So go ahead, Anki, sorry.
Yeah.
I think I was on mute. Yeah. So
you were on mute. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically speaking, again, in the summer we had technically 7 players who could play in midfield. We had Jorginho, Kovacic, Kante, Loftus-Cheek. We got in Saul, Barkley, and whom I'm missing. I think obviously Chalobah. Chalobah can play there, right? So among all these players, again, the reason why.
But that's not Chalobah's specialty. He just makeshift.
Yeah. Yes, but I'm actually coming to that. So for me, among all these players, and you put it right, as in Loftus-Cheek, yes, he's probably, if I may compare, so he's probably closest to Kovacic in a way. Kante is Kante. No one kind of can equate him. And maybe Barkley, again, he's Barkley, he's a total different piece. Maybe Barkley and Saul you can put in a similar bracket in a sense, right? They can play probably in front of the pivot, slightly better compared to them playing the pivot. So for me, the only player actually who could have been molded or probably can be molded even now is Chalobah. Honestly speaking, Chalobah, I know that's not his specialty, but that is his age. And Tuchel is known for coaching at the end of the day, right? And then for me, and he is having a pass on him. It's not like he's a bad passer of the ball. We have seen that already. from right centre back. Also, the reason why he thrives at right centre back as well, equally as centre back, is because of his passing ability, and he has strength, which is actually an add-on to Jorginho. So maybe that is something that we should look at maybe immediately, because Chalobah playing in midfield, is able to get the mentorship of Jorginho. Tuchel being there is probably the way to go forward, because yes, we might sign a fourth player. Billy Gilmore could have been, convinced to stay on, but honestly, like again, we didn't anticipate three top midfielders getting injured at the same time, which is an exceptional situation. So for me, that would have been bad for Billy Gilmore, if you have to really ask me. And any midfielder for that matter will not come in to Chelsea Football Club knowing that that person would be possibly a sixth choice midfielder, because trust me, like we don't actually sign players for injuries definitely is part and parcel of the game. But the reason why Loftus Cheek was kind of kept back is one thing. Maybe we didn't get a buyer, maybe we didn't have so much kind of the Arsenal as well. Why? Because Loftus Cheek brings a total different element. He brings that strength. He brings that driving force, which maybe a Kovacic even does not bring in terms of strength. So, like, Tuchel wanted to have all those pieces, and if you have to say that after the three top midfielders, which we all know who three they are, it is going to be Loftus Cheek who's going to be fourth choice, because he brings totally different elements. Yes, a replacement would possibly be a fifth or sixth choice midfielder. So I don't see any like top midfielder being able to sign. So maybe it's a youngster that we have to go with, and we have a youngster in our ranks in Chalobah. So why not use him? It's not like Chalobah is again playing every game. Yes, he has overtaken Christensen in recent weeks, but we know if Christensen's mind is right, the contract situation is sorted, and he comes back to fitness. For me, Christensen is still got to be more relied on.
Let me get you right here, Ankit. You're suggesting to use Chalobah there because he's capable of fulfilling the role. You're just talking about that in terms of the situation right now to solve the problem, right?
No,
Go
it's
ahead.
actually long term. Trust me, because I'll tell you why. The reason being that I don't see. You mentioned about Jorginho, as in me being that piece which is unique, right? So I don't see us getting rid of Jorginho either. We have seen the importance of Jorginho in recent weeks. So for me, Jorginho is going to
That is
be
you
there.
and I. That ask the
Yeah,
average Chelsea fan, and they will tell you to
exactly. So
sell him.
correct. So that's my opinion. Again, I am kind of putting the disclaimer. My opinion is that Jorginho should be kept. I don't think we should just be selling. And I know that our 30 plus policy is there. But for me, as in players like Jorginho, Kante, we don't find them every day. There was a reason why Pep Guardiola was behind Jorginho. As in, there's no secret there. For me, he has to be, staying in Chelsea Football Club for at least 2 more years. Same thing with N'Golo Kante. And because of the fact that I already named these two and Kovacic, we all know that he's probably in the prime of his career. We're not going to sell him right now. And Loftus Cheek is showing the promise that we all wanted from years together. I know that consistency is not there yet, but I think getting rid of him now will really be detrimental to his confidence. So, considering we already have these four, I would rather have some, kind of a youngster been giving that chance who can possibly replace Jorginho in certain matches in an injury time. And for me, nothing better than someone who knows the club, someone who's been there, played in midfield few times, can pass the ball, has strength, and which kind of is closest to what Jorginho can become. Not now, but maybe as in maybe in what 6 months time, 12 months time, and that's what I would go with. And Chaloba is a person who's our future as well. So why not mold him? And anyway, we are linked to I think Dilik and Jules Kunde of the like. So we know that centre back is not going to be a position where Chaloba is going to play week in week out. That's my opinion.
Here's why I disagree with you. I'm not for the club molding Chalobah into a midfielder for a long time because he's done well in the right centre back position and he's been brilliant there for me. That's my own opinion. We all have our opinion, but I disagree with you in that aspect. But that is, by the way, now here's the thing. How do we solve that Jorginho's problem right now? We don't have Gilmore. We don't have anybody else who plays that role and play very well. When in his absence, if you play Ruben Loftus-Cheek there, who's for me is not a number 6, is a proper number 8, or even but you could say at least 10 before you talk about 8. but he's not a number 6 in any way in terms of what Jorginho does or what he's different. He's more closer to Kovacic than he is to Jorginho. So I will argue till tomorrow that he will never be able to fulfill Jorginho's role 100%. He'd be able to pass the ball around. He'd be able to dash with the ball, muscle out opposition players because he's physical. He's a strong guy, but he will not be able to fulfill the regista role perfectly. So how do we solve the Jorginho problem? Because for me, if you ask me, I don't see. Loftus-Cheek is done quite well whenever he plays there, but that's when he has freedom to go forward. He's not that type to sit down for you. He'll be wasted in the game. 90 minutes, you will not see his potential. You'll be able to see Loftus-Cheek's potential when you give him the freedom, to roam forward, But the question is, how do we solve Jorginho's problem? We've all agreed in his absence, we struggled to keep the ball. We struggled to keep connect our defense to our midfield to attack. And whenever he's not playing, our midfield is just everywhere. So how do we solve the Jorginho problem?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a very interesting discussion, and basing on your question and what Ankit said before, I wanted to agree slightly with Ankit's point of playing Chalobah in that Jorginho's position for two of these reasons.
So you two now are fighting against me. I'm alone, right?
No.
It's an option.
Just a clash of perspectives. First of all, it's when you integrate a young player who has never played for the first team, and like him, that he broke through his pre-season games, it's very difficult to flip-flop and rotate his position very often, because it could rupture it could hamper his development, and it can't help him perfect a position in the way that he should. So I agree that with Tuchel's treatment of him in this kind of games. And before the second game of the season, I really remember it was before Arsenal. Tuchel was asked if he could play Chalobah in midfield, basing in his performances at Huddersfield or at Lorient in his long spells, and he clearly stated that his desire was to make him perfect this right centre-back role first and foremost, and then he would play him in midfield. And the sense hasn't changed even there. Even in this kind of games he has played in midfield, it has been because of our need to fill those kind of places that we have had absent due to the injury and COVID crisis. But I don't see Chalobah playing there in the long term for this reason. Firstly, that a young player should perfect a specific role, first of all. And secondly, like you mentioned, that Jorginho is first and foremost a regista. If we swap him with Chalobah, only geographically on the pitch they would be the same. But the interpretation of the game, I fear that will change if we change a player with forward thinking as Jorginho, who tries to play vertical when he's at his best, with somebody who comes at the defense. So we practically will swap a builder from deep with a destroyer. And this doesn't make sense for me in the long term to rely on him. So we should find alternatives, options, but that consist with swapping Jorginho with somebody with similar profile. And coming back to your question, I feel that in the short term, I refer until the summer transfer window, we can do with Kante's universality as a midfield player who can drop back and leave the other guy in the pivot to go forward and drive with the ball, may it be Kovacic or Loftus-Cheek.
But here's the thing, Helgi, I get your point, but Kante cannot suffice for the regista role.
Of course. But I mean, in the cases that we don't have any other choice, and with Billy on loan, with Saul struggling to adapt himself with the intensity of the league. I hope it changes because he has shown some positive signs lately, but as a number 8, between the choices we have at our disposal, I feel that playing Golo further behind, due to his universal nature, and I stated it, even if you play him as an 8, you will be as high up the pitch as possible to intercept the first pass, and also he will immediately be in front of the defense because he's his nature of the player who can be everywhere on the pitch. So this could help us in the games that Jorginho is absent. But when the January or at max summer transfer window comes, we should sign somebody of Jorginho's profile, not to replace Jorginho, but to have him as an option to rotate with him. There are a lot of rumors that we are interested in Tchouameni from Monaco. There are rumors that we are interested in Rice, who is of a different profile of Jorginho, but he's growing at West Ham, and has shown that he's becoming even more forward-thinking. So why not signing them? And this Kante argument that I'm doing that could help us do with him playing further like back is not because of I think that we should stick to the long term with this option, but until the end of the season we could do, because Kante has proved that he, even if you tell him that he should play only further behind, it's his nature that he will come back and intercept passes and help the defense. So we should be fortunate about that. And this is my point for what we can do until this stage. And secondly, I think that and one of the reasons I'm against switching to a back four is that if we switch to a back four and in particular 4-3-3 lineup, the pressure on Jorginho's shoulders will be higher because he will play alone in front of the defense, and this is where the reliance on him will take a negative sense, because if he misses, we will miss a lone number 9. While since Tuchel has come, the pivot that these three at the back formation makes is that it makes us compensate even better when somebody like Jorginho is absent. So there are two of them who could compromise with each other, like Kante drops and Kovacic goes forward and vice versa. So this is the system itself allows us to compensate the lack of adaptable personnel to replace Jorginho. But I feel that we should get somebody with similar profile, or somebody like Rice, which has been a preference of mine for 2 years now, not to replace Jorginho, but to be with him and to make us have two options.
Here's why I disagree with you, Helgi. Here's why I disagree with you. And before anybody picks up their guns and people start pick up their guns and start looking for me, I'm going to make this clear. Rice is a good player. He's a leader. He's Chelsea through and through. But is Rice what we need right now? For obvious reason, or at least in my opinion, I'd say no. Why? One, Rice is an English international. We know that, right? Two, Rice wouldn't want to come to Chelsea and only gets to play when N'Golo Kante is not playing. I don't know if you get my point.
Yeah, I do.
And three, we cannot, the way we play, we simply cannot play Rice and N'Golo Kante together. Then we'll be missing a very critical aspect of our game, which Kovacic or Jorginho can provide. So that to me is a serious stumbling block. And Rice himself, as a smart guy, would even look at it and say, this won't work for me. He's better off going to Manchester United, where they need a defined defensive midfielder like him, and he gets to play because he will bench, Fred, anytime, any day.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
And Matic isn't any younger. He's not that much original. Yeah, so my argument, let me make this clear before you shoot me, Helgi. Rice is a good player, right? He's a leader. He's Chelsea through and through. But Chelsea isn't the right place for him right now. And if he's a smart guy, he knows that himself. And then Kante isn't leaving Chelsea anytime soon. Why? Remember, we've won 2 major trophies with half-fit N'Golo Kante. The Europa League that Sarri won with us, Kante wasn't fully fit.
Of course.
For the Champions League final, Kante wasn't fully fit.
Yeah.
So that shows you that Kante will be at Chelsea for a pretty long time, and I don't think Rice will come to Chelsea to become a Kante deputy. And the
No,
price also. The price is a
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
factor also.
I'm considering it. But the thing is that that's why I stated that I have noticed that West Ham, as far as I have watched their games, especially against us, bar his mistake before Mount scored our second goal, he was very orchestrating. Like, I know your point that you are implying that you'd be better in a counter-attacking team, or a team who gives him less responsibility to
No, no, no,
build
no. That's
the
that's
team
not my
from deep.
point. That's not my point. I made
Um,
my point clear. We're not. I, look, this is a very very good conversation, and you and I have to let Ankit in to bring in his weapon. Let's see what he's got for us. I'm going to make it clear again. Rice is a good player. Rice is a leader. He's Chelsea through and through. That is at least how we see it. But if I was Rice and you let me go at 10 and you want me back, I wouldn't come back. That's me. I'd like to go to somewhere else to show you what you're missing so you learn from it. But that's, by the way, I'm implying that he's only good for counter-attack.
okay.
If we don't have a goal of Kante today and the price isn't as crazy as it is, I'd say go for Rice.
No, I get your point. I misunderstood the first thing, but when I have watched him in these games, like at West Ham, he has shown an improvement in the forward play. So this could be a bonus in his game. He has scored goals in the Europa League. He has improved his ball retention. And I'm not saying that he should replace Ngolo, because I have never thought that. I'm not even saying that he should replace Jorginho. So for me, being interested in Rice doesn't have dependence on whether Jorginho should stay or leave. He's just an option that he's
No, not even
in
Jorginho,
further.
because Helgi, I know you're my brother and I love you, but we'll argue this to tomorrow. Rice cannot fulfill Jorginho's role. Even put a gun on my head, I still argue that.
Yeah, I
Rice
agree with that.
But
is more likely to be able to fulfill N'Golo Kante's role than Jorginho's role. He simply can't do that.
yeah, but I'm basing on the current options and the rumors that we have been facing, and I have seen that he has shown this kind of improvement. And I know that at the same time there are two players of different characteristics, but knowing the intense nature of the league and the fact that we play a lot of games, the fixture like a hectic period in the end of December and whatever, two players of different characteristics then may help us. They can complement each other in Golo's absence, and because they play in a pivot, so there is not one for one replacement. It's just my opinion, and I fully respect yours. Maybe over time I will change it, because, as I said,
I'm gonna get you to change your mind, really.
No,
I'm gonna
yeah,
change it. Let's get Ankit's opinion.
Only Rice.
Ankit, go ahead. Give us your opinion.
no.
And Ankit, by the way, I'm gonna let you know this was planned as a marathon. So whenever you want to leave, you're free to go. It was
No
prearranged
problem.
with high
I love
for a
it.
marathon
Just
discussion.
before Ankit goes ahead,
Yes,
like
yes.
one question for you based on your opinion. If there is not Rice, do you have any like specific name to make us sign, like to compliment
I
Jorginho?
have,
Because
and
if there is no Rice, there's
always-
someone else.
I always have, and Coachila knows it very well. And I know my friend Stav may disagree, but Ryan Gravenberch is the person I've been calling it from like last 6 months. The guy has basically uprooted trees in Ajax, and in Champions League, he is one of the best players after Sebastian Haller and Anthony. Ryan Gravenberch, his value is rising day by day. He's an international. Trust me, other I'm putting a bold statement here. In 5 years' time, you'll see Ryan Gravenberch being better than Declan Rice, and that is a fact. And what Ryan Gravenberch can bring you, yes, he is not that player who plays in the double pivot. Yes, he thrives in a 4-3-3, but the build that Ryan Gravenberch has, you know, will allow him to get molded into that because he is that young. And as a number 8, he's fantastic already. So for me, he's somewhere between a number 6 and a number 8, and that is what we need. Someone who can do both the jobs, and that is what I think Ryan Gravenberch is. And again, such players don't exist, and that is why Coachila we had scouted him a few months
Yes,
ago.
yes, we did.
And
And
he
by
has
the way,
done-
before you continue, for this the second season, which starts January 1st, the Scouting for Chelsea episode. If Chelsea signs your candidate, you get $100.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So let me start scouting today itself. But yes, definitely.
Yep. So
So
go ahead.
yeah, but again, that is an option. In that mode is what I'm going for. And again, like as English fans, as people who kind of follow day in and day out, we Premiership, we know that we might be subconsciously biased to a Rice. Yes, I'm not denying that he's not great. He is great in what he does for his age. He's fantastic, and of course he's Chelsea through and through and all that. But at the end of the day, if he can bring, maybe yes, he's improving at a certain aspect, but his primary aspect we all know he's more like a destroyer. He's closer to a Kante compared to a Jorginho, and that is the reason why we need to look elsewhere as well. We cannot just basically stay there. I think Tchouameni is another example. Yes, but it's been so many months. I know Chelsea have already been following him, but by now, I'm also guessing Tchouameni's value must have risen, and that's another thing that is a Chelsea thing. It's really a Chelsea thing. We should just go for it. But I think the problem is not that. The problem is the fact that we just play two midfielders. As in, don't get me wrong, but for me, signing anyone for those two options would not have been fair anyway. Because as I said, we had what, 7 players who could play there, and don't forget we have what, Gallagher who's coming in. Gallagher for sure is the future. If Chelsea don't use Gallagher, it will be a massive problem, right? Gallagher has to be
Mm.
utilized.
So,
And
so who do you
Jorginho,
think Gallagher is best? That is who does he play like Jorginho or like
he's a Mason
Kovacic or
Mount. No,
like?
he's a Mason Mount part two. And again, I've gone on record
So
saying
that's a
that
number
on,
eight.
Agree. Yeah.
yeah, long. But again, I'm coming to that. The reason why we have so many midfielders at the end of the day, I really believe, as in the long-term plan of Tuchel is to go 4-3-3, and it's about to win. Yes, things have been going well, but now finally he saw a blip, and a longer blip than what most anticipated. So I think again, it might be ifs and buts, it might be something of an assumption, but I really believe that there must be some point where Tuchel is thinking about the future. If he's really thinking about the future with Chelsea, which we hope he is going to change the system at some point. And for me, the most that we can achieve with these set of midfielders would be with a 4-3-3 with maybe Mason Mount. He's a proper 4-3-3 number 8. He's not really something that he's playing today, honestly speaking.
Here's another
Lost
thing
his
for
feet.
you before you continue.
Yeah.
I think I don't see Thomas Tuchel changing the system, changing the formation right now.
He has to, Coachila.
Although
Come on,
I've
like,
known him at PSG, Mainz, and Dortmund, he's known to change formation even 3 times in a single game.
yeah,
But he
absolutely.
hasn't done that at Chelsea. What I noticed he's done at Chelsea is how the 2-8 operate. He tweaks it up front, but most people don't see that. You'd have to pay attention to games to see that he tweaks it up front. So, and he's comfortable with the way the back three and the wing backs play. To him, I don't see him changing it. But just that's my point. Just go ahead.
No. See, as in the reason why I'm saying it, Coachila, is because of the fact that now, imagine like Thomas Tuchel has now what? He'll be completing a year in January. So I think 1 year is as in enough kind of a sample, kind of a, as in size to basically go with basic conclusions. And he will definitely have some review going with his team. So for me, in this period, if you really ask me, our midfielders have outperformed our, number 10, so as to speak, as in by far. By far, there's no two ways about it. And we have too many midfielders who kind of will be on the bench 6 months down the line, provided compared to basically those number 10s who haven't really proven. So would you want to invest maybe in a Chiesa, get in a better number 10, or would you want to basically utilize someone who's actually already proven at Chelsea Football Club or proven at in the English Premier League? I would actually go for the latter. I would actually, again, if I was Tuchel, even I would think of the latter, because it's not just Mount, it's not just Gallagher. We have Mount, Gallagher, Kovacic again. Like I think Tyrone mentioned, he's not a typical number 6. Yes, I disagree with Tyrone on the fact that Kovacic has actually become a much better number 6 than most anticipated again. But he's, as in, or naturally, he's not a number 6, right? So Kovacic. Then we have Loftus-Cheek. So there you have right there 4 players, and for 2 positions, 4 players of basically excellent quality. Number 8 are right there. And then what you need basically a holder. I know I've not even spoken about Kante. So Kante is someone who could do all the 3 for me, right? And Jorginho, then you have a replacement, and that is why I disagree with Helgi, my friend, because Rice will not come as a replacement for Jorginho. And if we are able to, kind of change the system, that's even more chance that, Rice will not play enough games. Yes, we say that, you might want to rotate, but if you are playing as a lone DM, you want to be basically keeping your lone DM consistent. We all remember the Makelele days, and that is something that I would actually prefer. Yes, Jorginho is not your ideal lone DM, but again, maybe a Tchouameni is an excellent example there, because for me, again, we are going back to the same name, but he is someone like maybe closer to a Jorginho Kante, or a mix of the two, can do both the things, right? Again, you have Javier Simons. Uh, is he not a defender? From what I understand, he can play right centre back is his actual position. No, maybe I'm wrong. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyrone or anyone in the panel.
No, I don't know him that well, but I understand your argument. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Now let's take it to Kante specifically right now. I think it was under Lampard he started that we should sell Kante. Kante is done, and Chelsea fan base, how impatient we can be. The slightest dip in form, you start hearing all sorts of nonsense. But that is, by the way, let's throw that away and talk about Kante specifically now. It's important that the transition from Kante's exit from Chelsea or his retirement in football, it's important that it is seamless. Because if it is drastic, there will be a lot of problem. Now, the question is, do Chelsea need a Kante replacement or a Kante deputy? Either of you can go first. Which do you think? And if you say each whatever option you pick, let me know.
Well, like it's the what do you mean by counter replacement? Because he replaceable practically.
He's
The
already
thing,
laughing at me. He's already laughing at me and going like, "What do you
no,
mean by a Kante
yeah,
replacement?"
no,
So
but
go ahead.
no, it's an implied praise for him, because the first time in the first video we did together, it was a counter player profile,
Yes, it
and I
was.
said that he's a player that you can't really find. And one of the opinions that I said, personal opinion, that I take pride in even to these days, that I wanted him as a first choice over Raja Nainggolan at the time. So he is that kind of guy that you can't really replace because of his universality. There are a lot of like decent midfielders, decent number eights in circulation, like in modern football, that have completed their game. They can defend, they can attack, they can beat the press, and they can join the attack very well. But you struggle to find a player like him who can, in a matter of seconds, be supporting the first line of attack, and then he can be in front of the defense to retrieve possession and then start the counter attack. So if you say counter replacement, it's easier said than done, because you can partly replace him. You can find a player who possesses a part of his characteristics very well, but it's very difficult to possess to sign a player who can provide what he does. And remember, he isn't a goal scoring midfielder either. He doesn't provide assists, but he's completely the way he is. Like he no need to mention like past contributions. Remember only the Brentford game. He came on, and in 4 minutes we scored a goal orchestrated by him. So his presence.
Yep, the only guy, one of a few people that I know that will come onto the pitch towards the 9 minutes of the game and win man of the match. Only, only a few people can do that. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
of course. Yeah, but not only that, he thrives in big games consistently as well. Like in Champions League, he was man of the match against Real Madrid in both legs. He was man of the match in the final, as you said, half fit. He played with knee injured, like in the Europa League final, even though he was expected not to be in London, and he traveled in Baku, and he started, and he played, and he made Ozil leave the pitch like in tears, if I remember it well. So like he's that kind of guy who can not replace because of his universality. He's that kind of player that you struggle so what we should do to avoid that drastic, I think, transition from Golo to non-Golo is that you can sign a number of players to fill him, because I think these are maybe in the future there will be someone of similar quality, but basing on the tweets of a lot of people that I have come across during the year, so the suggestions haven't been convincing enough. I have seen Bissouma's name being mentioned a lot, but he doesn't even get near Golo's presence. Maybe it's too early to give like a very, very concrete argument that because he's at Brighton, and we have seen a lot of precedents in Premier League that when players who come from mid-table to clubs to those who to like clubs, top six clubs, they evolve themselves, and this is not a surprise. But as it stands, I can't name a player that can do his job as well as he does, and his influence is irreplaceable one for one. Like it's a similar discussion that we had when Aiden left for Real Madrid, and there was a lot of discussion who could replace him, but who could replace him one by one. So the club went into the transfer window and signed a lot of attacking players to fill the void left by him. So it's the similar to N'Golo, and that the arguments that he's past his time or he is 30 now, and these are nonsense in my opinion, because you can't judge a player through his age.
Yeah, absolute nonsense indeed.
So yeah, my argument is that you can't. The only way to avoid a drastic transition from him is just to sign a number of players who can, each of them, contribute to fill the hole left by him. And the day he leaves may be like very far from now, because he's a
very fine indeed. And the truth is, I've followed football for a long time, and one of the most important things I've learned in football is there are never two players that are alike. There must be some measure of differences. And it's not just N'Golo Kante. Like Tyrone said, the things is players like Kante, Jorginho, etc. cannot be replaced. We're still yet to find a player to fill Lampard's voids, Drogba, Ashley Cole, and Joe Cole, and much more. So that teaches us a lesson even further. There are never two players on planet Earth that are identical. There will still be some measure of differences between the two players, no matter how bad of a player that person is or how good of a player that person is. We haven't replaced Pedro, that didn't even stay that long at Chelsea. We haven't replaced Willian. No, there will never be another Willian. There will never be another Pedro. There will never be another David Luiz. All these players, they each individually has attributes that define them. And that is especially true when you talk about N'Golo Kante. So in your point, yes, you laughed at me, and I know it's a question that I already know the answer. There's no that possibility to replace N'Golo Kante. It's not possible. You will never have another N'Golo Kante, as much as there will never be another Mikel, there will never be another Makalele, there will never be another Michael Essien. These players are very different in different ways. So now, before I take it to Anki, clearly, I know Anki.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you there. I mean that, but yeah, on the same point, right? Because of the fact that you mentioned about there will not be another Kante, Jorginho, etc. And that is the whole point that I was trying to make, right? So that is the reason why there's no point. Like we'll be looking. We'll be probably signing as we did with left backs for so many years. Why not when Jorginho is there, Kante is there? That is the time when we mold someone. Maybe bring back a Billy Gilmore. Maybe get in Chalobah in that space, and that is the whole point that I was trying to make. And yeah, that's about it. Yeah, please carry on, Coachila.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is this: we can all agree that there will never be another Kante. So it's not. Chelsea shouldn't be looking for Kante replacements. Chelsea should be looking for a Kante deputy. And when you're a deputy, you learn from your superior, and that will be the best way to find at least you could say manageable replacement for N'Golo Kante. Somebody, as a deputy, you get to learn how he applies his techniques, how he fulfills his position and all that. And then the replacement because eventually there will be a replacement.
Yeah,
And
of
then
course.
the replacement, or let me call it a change, will now be seamless. So now, who is the perfect deputy for N'Golo Kante? Who has that attribute that at least when we sign that person and that person comes in, and when Kante is not playing, that person plays, he'll be able to win second balls, he'll be able to read opposition moves, break up their attacks, then our defense will have proper protection. Who is that person? I have a person in mind. I know you have somebody in mind. I know Helgi is Rice's brother-in-law, brother or friend. I don't know. He is campaigning for Rice. So who is that person? Who do you have in mind? Any of you can come for. I can go first
For me,
because
yeah,
I took it from Helgi.
yeah, see, for me, the question is like, do we need that person right now? As in, yes, many will argue we probably will, as we noticed recently when the players are missing, there are a lot of holes in the team, and that kind of again brings back to the question like, are the midfielders that we have currently, the top three midfielders, are they kind of replaceable? No, as in yes, their importance is very high, but again, compared to basically the forwards, the midfielders is something I actually today, if you ask me. Yes, people will say our defense has been great, but for me, we have the best midfield in Europe. Like I don't think any European club can also kind
But
of have.
here's the thing. Let me cut you off a little bit. I enjoy
Sure.
fighting with you. You know that we have the best midfield in Europe. That is as Stamson saying when the league was starting. The argument was that we have the biggest squad in the league. The truth is we
Yeah,
have the biggest squad in the league, but we have few variety. That's the
exactly.
issue. If you look at
Yes.
our squad, almost 100, almost more than 90% of all the players we have in the squad need space to operate. Without space, it's always passing back or
Yes.
sideways. We lack players who are able to look at the opponent, even two, three of them decide to take them on, beat them, and then do something with the ball. So that's my issue. We have five midfielders here, but if you look at them, most majority of them are just like for like. They don't. They all need spaces to operate. That's the biggest issue we have in a squad. From Ziyech, from Christian Pulisic sometimes can be direct. From Ziyech and every other player you can name, except Kovacic doesn't need much space. Even if you come at him, he can beat the press. But at least let me say 85 to 90% of our players need space to operate. When they don't see the space, they pass it backward, sideways. So go ahead, Anki. That's just the issue
See,
with our squad. We have big squad, but no variety.
you answer that question yourself, Coachila, because I'm not sure if again my friend Star is there in the chat or not. And a lot of times we've had the discussion in the past that what Tuchel probably, if you have to criticize, he's not utilizing the attributes of every player that we have to the fullest. And that is where basically we're talking about the ZSs of the world, where basically we know that they are Mason Mount even. Like those are not the positions that are their ideal positions. So at some point in time, yes, there is basically a system which is working well. We kind of defend as a team, we attack as a team, but there has to be some point where you have to utilize your entire squad and use it to the fullest. And that is where I'm coming to, because if we are not able to change the system even now, when we are not able to win this league this year, and let's be honest, if we win this league this year from this point in time, it will be a pleasant surprise for me, honestly speaking. Like that's the hard truth. So for me, right now, this is all the more reason to basically utilize them to the fullest. And again, coming back to my point, what I was trying to make is about the midfielders that we have. For me, they have outperformed basically the attackers. So I need to play those midfielders more if I was Tuchel, and make sure that their prime kind of form is utilized the most. And that is why I will have two number eights and have basically a sitting midfielder. And yes, Jorginho is a DM in a sense, but he's not an ideal DM for the Premiership, people might say, because of him not being fast. But I think the player who can kind of replace all these players, I don't think we should look elsewhere. Yes, Billy Gilmore wasn't, wanting to kind of stay possibly, but for me, he is going to be a future. Maybe in 6 months' time, he's going to be, building up some muscle, and hopefully he'll be that person that we all want to. Why actually look elsewhere? If we have to look elsewhere, then look for someone who can play that lone DM as well as play double pivot. Because again, coming back to the same point, we don't want to be a situation where we have certain players who kind of play in certain positions only and are not so comfortable elsewhere, and that is what the reason is, that because Tuchel is not able to change the system very easily right now. So we need players who can play equally as well, in multiple positions, and that is Germany for me. Among all the options that I know of, that we are linked to at least, if we are at all going for a midfielder, say my opinion is we should not go at all. We have lone DM, Jorginho, Billy Gilmore. Then obviously Kante can do that temporarily as a third choice lone DM only at best, right? Not as the first two choices. Then we have obviously Kovacic, Loftus-Cheek, Gallagher, Mason Mount, and of course Kante again. So five players for them. This will actually cover the midfield to the fullest, and that is when I say we have the best midfield in Europe, and that is what I meant. So if these three positions which cover what seven players are not cover it, I really don't know what will, because if we are signing maybe a Declan Rice, he will not be happy playing second fiddle to Jorginho. Billy Gilmore might just be. This season he wasn't because he knew that he'll probably be fifth choice. But next season, if we know that if we are playing lone DM more, he will possibly become second choice. That will be a huge difference. And if he's not agreeing, then go for Tchouameni, because we'll be flexible changing the system, because both Tchouameni and Billy Gilmore can play the lone DM as well as the double pivot.
Yeah, a great response to that question. Okay, while you talked about the number eight, I'd like us to quickly take a look at the number eight, or players who are capable of playing in the number eight position at a club. We have a few of them. We have Ross Barkley. We have to count Ruben Loftus-Cheek in, because that's his natural position. We have Christian Pulisic. We have Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, Werner plays there too. Do we really, because these guys, they've not been effective for us that much, all of them, except leave out Mason Mount. He's been great. Kai in his own, he's been in and out of form, drift in and out of form. Who else again? Cho also plays that number eight. He drifts in and out. He's not consistent enough. Do we need to put some of them in the market and then go for better players and so that strengthen that area?
Yeah, like I'm taking the initiative from the discussion like before that we made, and your point, like both your points were great now regarding our midfield personnel, and I more or less agree. But the thing is that, at least from my perspective, in the current system, the weight on the creativity and the directness falls more into the two players behind the striker, rather than the players who create the pivot. And this is where what worries me in the games that we create and struggle to finish, and we have dropped as many as 6 points just for the same reasons. We drew against Everton, Burnley, and United. But even though we had more than 20 shots on target and restricted them to less than 5 or 6, and the same result, 1-1, despite the lack of finishing. So more than a new number 8, I feel that we should. It's more urgent to sign a player who can provide us more directness and more effectiveness in terms of finishing and giving sharp assists.
Okay, here's the thing. So you're suggesting we should look for new number 8, right?
No, I think we should look for new number 8, and I said it before that we in the summer I feel that we will sign one, whether it be to Tchouameni.
Who makes way? So that's the question. Let's start from who makes way, because we just can't keep bringing them in, and then we're overloaded in that area, and almost all of them have not been consistent enough. So who makes way?
Barkley and Saul, I think, eventually will make way. I don't know about Loftus-Cheek, but 2 players are enough to make space for at least one coming as a new addition to the team. But my worry is not the technical quality of our main three midfielders, Jorginho, Kante, and Kovacic. But the thing is that you need to have players who are able to have that spark and that ability to finish their chances when the number 9 isn't effective at them. Like Hudson-Odoi, for example, he's a very what worries and at the same time surprises me about him. I watched the guy when he was playing in the young team that he could score free kicks for fun. In the FA Youth Cup games, he could finish chances from very tight angles and would blast the ball into the top corner. And you said this guy is superb at finishing. And ironically, in this point of his career, he shows good acceleration skills, can hold the ball close to him and drag the defending players behind, create space for himself and for the teammates, make right decisions most of the time. But when it comes to finishing, his shots don't have neither the right power nor the precision, and this is what worries me. While Ziyech, for example, he's a good player, has the technical ability, but he's somewhat suffering for the positioning more on the inside. Pulisic has been uh, showing the directness for a lot of games, as you said, but coming from the injuries, he hasn't been as sharp as he was under Lampard, and these are individual problems. Like these aren't coachable, and this is worries me most, basing not only from an opinion from before, but for the games that we have had. And we should have a player who can drag out of difficult situations in terms of finishing, because it's unacceptable to have consistently more than 20 shots on target and then score one goal. And this doesn't only come from that we lack.
And that's just from one game.
Yeah, exactly. But we one game, and each of them is the similar pattern. Like 1-1, it's frustrating because even if you place yourself in the shoes of a manager, and he says that okay, I'm coaching a 5-0 performance, and when the players come to the box, they can't finish. So this makes the need for a player who can support the striker bigger than for a number 8. So I feel that we should go for someone, if there is no improvement from the guys who are actually playing, to make sure that we don't have only to rely only on the number 9 to finish our chances. You remember Liverpool, City, and they have a lot of options to score the goals from. It's not that we don't have. Our wing backs have scored considerably. Reece has scored, Chilwell has scored. Uh, at his best, Odoi has scored, but we need to see consistency in this pattern, because it's 6 points. And if those chances were converted, which in hindsight it seems very frustrating, we'd be with equal points with Man City. And like you said, that we don't have this kind of variety in terms of our midfield three, and I agree with that, because there is a sort of disbalance between the main three and the bench. Like one thing is to have Jorginho, Kovacic, and Golo, and something completely different is to have Saul, Barkley, and whoever may play there. So we need to add to our bench, and I agree. But the thing, what worries me is that we need to see more sharpness from the guys who play behind the striker as well. Against Everton, for example, it was tough to believe that the chances we missed and then we conceded. So these are things that we should change, and I don't know why it's so difficult not to finish this kind of chances and not to get a result. Because then I'm not saying that every game you should convert every chances, because Premier League is that, and the intensity of the games is too high. COVID situation made the things even more difficult. But the thing is that I see the need. So eventually, to sum it up, I see the need for improvement, or maybe a mentality change in terms when they are in front of goal, from the guys who play behind the striker, bigger than signing rotation players in that midfield three. Even though I think that we should go into the market for both of them, but with Ziyech's future in doubt, Pulisic with his injury problem, I think that we may sense also a change of personnel in this regard as well.
Yeah, but here's the question: who makes way? Like, I understand your point, and you make great point. More importantly, the what I the most damning aspect of your argument is, yes, it's unacceptable to create 20 plus chances and just score a single goal. And big up to my brother Green Top in the house. Merry Christmas to you, brother. And I hope things are coming back to normal in Kentucky. And I'm glad you and your family are well. And prayers to those who were affected. Merry Christmas to you. We'll soon start the Rice fight, and hopefully you'll be around to witness it. I know you love Rice so much, but I have my reasons why I say Rice isn't what we need right now. So now, Sadiq, go ahead. Helgi? Now, go ahead. Now, I understand the point you highlighted, but the question is for you is who makes way, and I'm all for it. I'm all for us, selling some of those players that have not been consistent enough and getting in players who can be, lethal in front of goal, who can put away chances when we create chances. Because it just seems as if the same issues we've had under Frank Lampard is still happening. It's still repeating. And that's the reason why we bought Romelu Lukaku, but Lukaku doesn't have the magic wand. And the truth is, we need a solution for Lukaku to work. Because when you sign a new player, either of these two things have to happen. You have to change your system to accommodate the player, or the player has to adapt to the way you play. And neither has happened. Lukaku hasn't adapted to the way we play, and we haven't changed our system to accommodate Lukaku. But that's, by the way, my point being Lukaku doesn't have the magic wand to help us solve the poor goal scoring rate that we have. So now the question is, who makes way? Because we can't just keep bringing them in. We have loads of them, lots of number 8s in our squad. And you could argue, I don't want to name names, they've been ineffective, except for Mount. Mount has been brilliant. Kai Havertz on occasions have been brilliant. On occasion, he just goes in and out of form. So yeah. So before you continue, please, if you're here for the first time, please smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and more importantly, don't forget to click on the bell notification button, because the Blue Morning is a Saturday shows. It takes place every Saturday, so you don't miss them. So go ahead, Helgi. Who makes way?
First of all, I want to make clear my point that in an ideal scenario, I would wish that no one makes way. So my first desire, the main desire of mine, is that our attacking personnel finds his goal scoring appetite and the clinicality in front of goal, because we don't lack in numbers. In principle, we don't lack in quality either, because these players have proved their worth, here and there. Maybe not, as you said, not all of them have shown the same patterns of consistency. But the thing is that when you are in this position, we have dropped 6 points from bad finishing. And I'm generally patient with our players, especially in this kind of year that we have come from. So January up to now, and it has been a wonderful year in general when it comes to winning trophies. We have won the Champions League, won the Super Cup, and whatever. But the thing is that you should make sure that your attacking players even score. We can do everything, and the memories from the Everton game really stick to my mind. It's very difficult. It's 1 week later, and it's still unbelievable how we miss those chances. Okay, you may win narrowly. It's normal, because not always the chances will be converted. Even the most clinical teams in the world have problems with their finishing. It's a common phenomenon in football, but I don't want it to be a pattern. And if it becomes, it's what's the reason? Is it a mentality problem? Is it how can I say? It's a lack of chemistry. We can't say that, because the players combine very well. They go into the final third with ease when they are at their best, of course. But the thing is that there are the basics of football. The first half against Everton should have finished 5-0 with no exaggeration. Against Burnley, we wasted tons of chances, and it's a common phenomenon in English football that the more you keep the like underdog teams in the game, the more they gain territory and they gain confidence, and the higher
I
the
like. I like. By the way, I like that term. I like that term, phenomenal, because it makes sense, and that will bring us. We'll talk about the charity FC because it's a phenomenon on its own. But go ahead, Helgi.
yeah, but yeah, it's exactly that. I know that you label it as charity FC, but the thing is that in the long term, this is very costly, and the chances we should finish we create them, and if we make a sort of comparison between previous Decembers and this one, at least if we are here, there are some substantial differences. Like before this time last year, actually, would struggle to score, electing creativity. The games were lethargic. We were passive in terms of creating. There were a lot of sideways and backwards passes. We relied on a lot of crosses with no clear address, and sometimes we were bailed out of situations through Giroud's aerial ability and his acrobatic skills to make us win games and get points. But the thing is that this time we are creating chances, we are being direct, and we are having dynamics in our game consistently. The thing is that how can you draw points when you are able to create that much? And it's the third time. Like, I'm excluding the Wolverhampton game for obvious reasons. Pulisic missed a chance there. We should have been given a penalty in the end. But this is a common draw. It happened, and it happens in the Premier League against a very well-organized team in defense. But the thing is that how can you drop points 3 times against teams who you clearly dominate? And to make it even worse in perspective, we literally gifted them the goals.
Would you argue? Let me ask you this: would you argue this, that had Lukaku been on the pitch, that it would have gotten different results in those games?
Half of my brain says yes, and half of my brain says no. It's a difficult thing, because if yes, because he is there to convert him chances, but I wouldn't say really no, but I would say half of my brain says adapt, because if Lukaku was on the pitch, would we have created the same number of chances? And this is a disbalance that we have shown. Like, with the false nine, we create more but struggle to finish. With Lukaku, we have created less, but we have finished those chances. He finished the only chance of the game against Zenit. He finished I have to remember now, in the first against Aston Villa, we were struggling in the first half again in the reverse fixture against them. We saw playing as a number 6. He was being handicapped by their press, and Lukaku had only 2 chances and scored 2 spectacular finishes. So you can't say that Lukaku should be excluded for this kind of reasons. He has gained us points. Against Arsenal, he was bulldozing their defense in the same way. So
now,
why should we?
No, I understand your argument, Helgi.
I'm not really I was here to say that about Lukaku. I'm still neutral, because he hasn't shown enough, especially in the last 2 months, to make me create a clear perspective whether he improves our game in general, whether he hampers our attacking flow. But the thing is that I expect more from the attacking players, and it's independent. The bad finishing from Ziyech, maybe Mount sometimes, even though he has done well in this kind of games. Pulisic, Odoi,
now,
independent from Lukaku's ability to whether to finish his chances or not. So I wouldn't include Lukaku in this discussion, in the substance of it, at least.
Yeah, great argument right there. I agree. What I like the most that you highlighted is when he's on the pitch, we created. When he was available for selection, we created few chances, but at least we put away those chances. But in his absence, we created more chances, but we we're very poor in front of goal. But that's, by the way, that makes great sense. And that makes me start thinking about my argument that I prefer our attack without Lukaku because it's very fluid, good to watch, and more chances created. But what's the sense when you create chances and not put them away? So we're better off creating few and scoring it rather than creating too many and not scoring any. So that makes sense. Now, let's bring it to this fight here, brought by my brother Uggs from Green Turf. I don't know if you know him. I think you have to check out the channel to get to know who he is. He's a Rice person just like you. He says Rice solves every problem. Yeah, wholeheartedly, I disagree. I disagree with that one. How many goals has he scored this season? And how many chances has he created? So what's your comment before we go whether you prefer Rice or Tchouameni? Do you agree that Rice solves every problem? Helgi, tell me.
No, despite our discourse that we did, I'm not that fond of to say that he comes in and everything changes. I wouldn't generalize it in this way. And at the same time, in an alternative perspective, I'd say that even if we don't sign Rice and sign someone else, I wouldn't be that. It's not a tragedy, really. I'm not that kind of guy who is so fond of Rice in the sense that I, for example, was of Ngolo in 2016, or maybe other players that I have loved to be here. Can't remember now exactly, but Lukaku, for example, I really wanted him in 2017 and he didn't come, so I was disappointed. And I wouldn't say the same for Rice, but I admire his growth of the past few months, and he's been an influential player at West Ham. Sorry, so I am in a, how can I say, between your and the guy's perspective who has commented. I am in a middle position. Like, yeah, I admire Rice and I'd like to have him here for the reasons I stated above. But at the same time, I wouldn't be disappointed if he doesn't get, because you have to compromise yourselves in a football market. West Ham have consistently been very, very stubborn with their stance. It's not, and this comes, and this is a common phenomenon in Premier League, because there is a financial power then goes from the first to the last team. And in other cases, it's a kind of hierarchy that if a player steps up in a team that doesn't compete in European football, it's a matter of time that he will evolve and progress and go into a top four team. While in English football, there is not always in this way, because despite the player's ambition to go at the club with a higher profile, they are the owners of the club who are reluctant and have all the territory, all the habitat to be reluctant due to the financial power that they possess, even though they weren't qualified on Champions League and everything else. So, yeah, I would like Rice here, as I said, completely independent to Jorginho's.
Okay. Let's go straight. I understand your point because I know you'll be bombarding me with how much you like Rice, like we argued before. But let's go to this. Let's go to the segment where I know this is a marathon, but we have to try to accommodate all the topics we had planned before. Remember, you had other topics you want us to talk about. Now, the question is for Rice or Tchouameni, who do you prefer and why?
To be honest, I haven't watched Tchouameni enough to give a proper position, to give a proper opinion of him. Maybe in Champions League a bit with Monaco, they faced Shakhtar, and he was instrumental there, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, this is just personal, and I can't give an elaborated answer on this. But I feel a bit, maybe Bakayoko's thing have given me nightmares when it comes to signing players from French league. I don't know why. It's a sort of, maybe it's a prejudice, and I'm not wrong I'm not right to give this kind of argument. But still, when I when I have to choose between two players, I think that Premier League experience is very important. Is a very important factor when it comes to choosing one. But as I said, the financial thing is a like is a determining factor, and if Monaco and is expected to from them ask less than West Ham for Rice, I think that the club will go for Tchouameni, realistically speaking. My preference is Rice, maybe because I have watched him more and his growth into the game has been like impressive from a neutral perspective. Even though you disagree with me with that, I would say ego discussion that he left and now he should prove himself somewhere else. That you made a mistake from letting me go on a free transfer
Yeah, you're repeating my argument, and I think that's the truth. This here's the thing: we're humans, and it's only natural in a case similar to that of Rice, where you know somebody disappointed because he was let go at around the age of 10 or so. I don't remember. You'd rather go to a different club and prove them wrong, show them, look at what you're missing. That's one point, right? And the other point I made also about Rice is that he's an English international. And in my opinion, Rice wouldn't want to come to Chelsea to play second fiddle to N'Golo Kante. And you and I know Kante will be there for a pretty long time.
Hopefully, yes.
And when I mentioned this before, like I said, I'm starting to sound like a broken record. We won the Champions League with a half-fit N'Golo Kante. We won a Europa League with a half-fit N'Golo Kante.
Yeah.
So I don't see Rice coming as a deputy. And you and I were agreed that what Chelsea should be looking for is a Kante deputy and not a Kante replacement. And we're not going to go for Rice as a Kante replacement. And Rice will not come as a Kante deputy. And another factor to consider is also the price. Yeah, this brother here will always fight me with his versatility, of Kante's versatility or not. He says it again, versatility, I know. But where do you think he'd get the chance? We still have, what's the name, Thiago Silva for the center-back position to lead the back three. Right center-back position, we still have a specialty player in the person of Trevor Chalobah, even Sosas Plequeta can play there. Left center-back position, we still have Antonio Rudiger until he leaves. So I don't think Rice would risk coming as a deputy. So what's your take? Who do you really prefer?
But before going for it, I just came across a Just Viola comment before that he said that we signed Eden Hazard for League One, and I have to reiterate that the opinion about the players coming from French league is just a prejudice from mine, so don't consider it. I may be completely wrong, and it's more based on sentiments and anger that I have from Bakayoko's time here, rather than a clear opinion of mine that we shouldn't get players from. It's just a sense of doubt regarding players, especially from players of similar position than him, that should come. And this has been strengthened by Nicolas Pepe's time at Arsenal, but this is another discussion, that he was thriving at Lille and went there and he's gone completely under the radar. But as I said, it's a different discussion. Coming to your question, I would reply maybe your question with another one. Like, if for Rice there is this doubt that he can't come as a deputy to N'Golo, and I have to reiterate that I have never seen Rice as a deputy to N'Golo, because they have completely different characteristics. Both they can intercept, both can
I'm here, I can hear you.
Yeah. Both can intercept, both can show their strengths on the ground, both can give forward passes, but I have never seen him as a deputy to Kante. The question is, would Tchouameni come as a deputy either? Because we are taking it as a principle that Tchouameni will come to be firstly to be a rotation player, and he will grow. It's not a must. This, if he evolves at Monaco and he leaves Monaco, I think that it will be for a club who promises him regular regular minutes. So if Rice doesn't come to be a deputy of someone, where's the guarantee that Tchouameni will? So I don't get that. And between choosing with both of them, I will go for Rice for this example, like leaving the financial thing aside, for Premier League experience, for the fact that he has done well at West Ham, shown personality there, and we have different perspectives clearly on that ego stuff, because basing on the logic that you said that he should go somewhere to prove us wrong, Lukaku should have come this summer. So
here's the question now. For those of you asking for this guy's social, we leave his social in the description section once the video is ready. And more importantly, if you're here for the first time, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, to help the channel grow. Now, Helgi, coming to you, so that can you check your private message? I think we may have to move the next topic to next Saturday, because my wife just peeped at the door right now. She needs my attention, and it's Christmas. Yeah, so yeah, I think we can talk about the next topic next Saturday, but we still have a few minutes to round off here. So the question is, my brother Og says he's gonna take over from someone, but who will he take over from?
Is it about Rice or Tchouameni?
Rice. Let's just keep it to Rice, because you prefer Rice. If Rice comes, I know you got me now by making the argument, that where's the guarantee that Tchouameni would want to come to Chelsea as a deputy? That's a good argument. But the question now is, if Rice comes, who will he take over from? Like, what's that comment here by my brother? He says he's going to take over from someone, but who is that?
But I have to the number of games that we play from, let's say, July to May, it's big enough to accommodate both players, like in a rotational manner, and in the way that both of them play a considerable number of games. I'm referring to Rice and Jorginho. So I have never seen Rice nor as a replacement, and I have never seen either as a replacement nor as a deputy to N'Golo, for obvious reasons. Like, if we need two players who can play in front of the defense and provide us with a variety of characteristics, both to destroy and both to build, basing on the opposition, Rice and Jorginho could be accommodated, I think, basing exactly on this, on the high number of games that we have to play during a season. So
who is he going to replace? That's my question. He says he's going to take over from someone. Who will he take over from? Let's keep it simple, because we have just about 3 minutes to round up.
I don't think that there is the need that someone should leave and he should go, because this is a delicate topic when it comes to center forwards, that the lack of game time becomes an issue. But when it comes to the midfielders, there is always time. Like, the actual state of us proves somewhat my point, I think. We don't have three, like against Zenit, we play with completely makeshift midfield. Tuchel was forced to play Reece there. Tuchel was forced to play Chalobah in midfield. Like, we played Saul, even though he doesn't have the intensity, as I said, to combat in a high high intensity league like Premier League is. So it's a matter of having more than having less, and City accommodates a lot of players in attack. Mahrez will leave for the Africa Cup of Nations. They have Sterling, they have Foden, they have De Bruyne, they have whoever they have, Jesus. So they don't struggle with having like with over having like players who can play in a similar position. They have Grealish as well. I forgot it. Even in midfield, they have Rodri. Fernandinho maybe was expected maybe to leave due to his age, but no, he renewed because they can interchange and basing on the opposition, they can play both together with each other. One of them can play and one of them can be on the bench, and no one can play as Pep did in the Champions League final. So in England, I don't think, and especially in clubs who fight for everything, there is not a problem to have a lot of players stacked in one position if they provide quality. The problem is that when you have a lot of players that can't provide quality, having having Bakayoko and Drinkwater in the same position, yes, this is the problem, in my opinion. But having two players who can provide quality, it's a must, in my opinion. In other leagues, it can be obligatory, as you say, to replace somebody with someone else due to lack of number of fixtures, one less competition, less intensity, teams that are used to playing with a similar pattern, no less rotation and whatever. Maybe a lot of teams like Milan, for example, are second in Serie A, but they are out of Europe. So they have less games. They have only the Italian Cup and the league to fight for. So two competitions, of course, a less number of games and less minutes for bench players. While for us, we play in the FIFA Club World Cup. We play in the League Cup semifinals. Mendy will go to Africa Cup of Nations. So we'll play in the Champions League. We'll play a lot of games till the end of the season. So the fact is that you need to over possess players, quality players, to be successful. Even for Liverpool, it's a similar story. When Fabinho doesn't play, it's Keita, Milner. If the argument was right that we should have had like less players than needed, Milner, for example, would have left Liverpool because he's overage. He has played a lot of years in the Premier League, but he is there because rotation is a must to sustain the intensity of the league and fixture congestion. So all in all, I don't feel that Rice will come to replace somebody, but he would come not only Rice but whoever come to find minutes and accommodate himself in the current personnel that we have. So I don't see the man, not only because I think in this way, but it's a proof that ambitious teams have a lot of players in similar position, a lot of quality at the same time. So yeah, I have never seen him as a replacement to Jorginho, but they complement each other in specific scenarios.
Yeah, what my argument has always been that he cannot play at the same time with N'Golo Kante. That will mean sacrificing the way we play because we don't have a defined register in the person of Jorginho, who's pivotal to the way we play. But that's by the way, and I think we've been streaming for 2 hours now. Like I said, they've come looking for me because it's Christmas. And I think you and I will talk privately when we were going to discuss the other topic because it's a very, very important topic. Unfortunately for us, the transfers and player performances and the situation we're in has taken us 2 hours. And Merry Christmas to everybody in the chat. Just Viola, my brother Ox, Bobby Fairview, Florinda, Willemia, Justin Hural, Just Viola, Hela, and all of you. Please, if you haven't, smash that like button and subscribe to Chelsea Perspective if you haven't. And like I told you before, I will make sure to leave Helgi's complete information in the description section below once the video is ready because it's the stream. It usually takes time before it processes to come to YouTube. So Helgi is a constant here. It's just that because of his education, he hardly has time to come join the panel. He's a great football mind. He represents Chelsea in his country. So I will hand it over to him to tell us about himself, his love for football, where he's from, so that you get to know him better. But like I said, he's a constant here on Chelsea Perspective. He's part of the team, and I love him so much, and I always like to talk football with him. So Helgi, over to you. Tell the viewers about you so that we can round up because we've been streaming for 2 hours right now.
Yeah, thanks again for the opportunity. I'm an Albanian Chelsea fan. I'm proud to represent myself in my country and have been uh, at Chelsea now for 12 years exactly. In December 2009, I have started to support this wonderful club. I share a lot of memories by being at Chelsea, and well, like I said, it's a massive pride to identify myself as a Chelsea in the blue community all over the world. So I'll do my best to involve myself in constructive debates because, like every one of us, hates like debates that have disrespect within our offense. So I avoid myself through all of that, and I try to become part of like constructive discussions, even though it means that I have to face opposite perspective or different perspective to mine. Uh, I usually uh, like use Twitter as I said, whenever I have time in my Twitter account, I want to engage in discussions with different people, and I'm free to all sort of criticism and advice through in terms of my performance and my discussions here. Um, Thank you very much again. It's always a pleasure to become here, but specifically, it was, I think, the most dynamic discussion I have ever had, not only here, but maybe in my life as whenever I have had the opportunity to discuss about football. It is I will always remember that, and in particular, thank you for the rice discussion. Because
Yeah,
I will
again,
treasure I'll treasure it, and the time will tell who is right and
yes.
who is wrong. But
Yeah, so
thank you very
see,
much,
if
Colombia.
we, yes, if we get him, fine. He's a fine player, but then again, you know my argument about that. And
Yeah, I
Helgi,
completely
again,
respect it.
it is a pleasure to have you on the team, and I always look forward to get you whenever time allows because of your study. And my appreciation to everybody in the chat. I've mentioned names. If I forgot your name, my apologies. Oggs, Just Biola, Ankate from Almighty Blues FC. Bobby Fairview, even Stav himself found time to post a message and let me know he's not going to be around. Um, a few Tyrone, my brother, my little brother, I call him that. He was there. And to every other person in the chat, some names are new here. Hela, and also this other name. What's his name? Also, sorry if I missed your name, Bobby. I've mentioned Bobby Fairview and Jason Hural. Please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, smash that like button to help us grow. And I look forward to seeing you guys around again. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you guys, and you guys provide value, great value to the stream, and you help the channel grow. So God bless you all, and Merry Christmas to you all that celebrate Christmas. Cheers.
Cheers.